You know what makes video games better? Dolphins. No, seriously, sit down and think about it. Don't you get super happy every time you see a dolphin come up in a video game?
Yep, from our fishy helpers in Super Mario World to Whitey the rootin' tootin' pilot shootin' dolphin in Aero Fighters 2, dolphins are always putting smiles on people's faces in video games.
Nope, there's never been a single instance of a terrible dolphin in video games. Not a single one. Nada. Zippo. Not gonna happen. But wait, what's that in the distance? Is that a terrible Segway skit idea? Oh god, awful special effects, run! Yeesh! I hate it when that happens. Box Art Echo is always popping up out of nowhere. Stealing my Cheetos, leaving the toilet seat up, making transitions into reviews awkward and cringy. Yeah, he's the worst. Wait, what were we talking about again? Oh yeah, Dolphin Blue on the Atomiswave!
Shortly after the Sega Dreamcast demise, another veteran console met its end. The Neo Geo MVS system. Yeah, you remember those giant red cabinets you used to waste quarters in at Pizza Hut while you died in Magician Lord over and over? Yep, those bad boys. Well, they finally kicked the bucket in 2004, at least in terms of games being created. The manufacturer, SNK, was going through some hard times financially, eventually merging with a company called Playmore to form SNK Playmore. We kinda touched on these guys way back on the Sengoku 3 review, so I won't dive too deep into their legacy. Even though the hardware itself was finished in 1997, game developers continued for as long as they could, crunching out games until its eventual retirement. SNK Playmore knew they had to keep the games flowing, so instead of investing in new hardware, they approached things from a software level. Enter Sammy Corporation, who would become the new home of some of SNK Playmore's arcade endeavors, carrying on the legacy of the MVS system. The Atomiswave was developed around 2002 with a Japan release in 2003 and other regions in 2004. It was designed to be a lower-cost alternative arcade experience for the average mom-and-pop stores. The goal was to simplify the ownership and modifications by allowing removable cartridges for games, adjustable controllers to convert machines from standard arcade games to racers or light gun games, and affordable price points for these machines themselves. Arriving at around half the cost of Sega's Naomi brand hardware machines, Sammy was able to create a budget-friendly alternative for arcade owners and developers all around. However, it wouldn't have the staying power that MVS had, with games only rolling out into around 2005 with the very last game releasing in 2009. The bulk of titles released between 2004 and 2005 from all different developers. It's a shame the Dreamcast died so quickly for many reasons, but I truly believe that had the Dreamcast lasted until, say, like around 2005-ish, or maybe got a sequel console, the Atomiswave's similarities with the Naomi hardware could have extended the life cycle of the final Sega console. It's of course a pipe dream thought on my behalf, but think about it, Atomiswave games on the Dreamcast. Well, fans have stepped in to do just that. The Sega Dreamcast fan development community have created a link between the Dreamcast and Atomiswave.
Now get this, there's certain games that were released on the Atomiswave that you can play on your Sega Dreamcast.
That brings us to today's game of choice, Dolphin Blue. Released exclusively on the Atomiswave in 2003, but brought over by fans to the Dreamcast in 2020, Dolphin Blue is part of Sammy's wave of exclusivity for the little red box that could. Hailed as one of the greatest games on the Atomiswave, this run and gun evokes the spirit and charm of games like Metal Slug, with an anime-tinged art style, creating a sea-bound adventure that takes the player through land, sea, and, well, under the sea. But is this one really worth diving into on the Dreamcast? I first played Dolphin Blue at Too Many Games convention many years ago on an Atomiswave candy cab. I was blown away from start to finish. I rarely actually sit down and play video games when I go to conventions, but once I got into it, I couldn't put it down. I had to have it. That's why I was so excited to hear that this game could now be played on a home console thanks to some members of the community. The end result is, well, you'll see.
Now, this review is going to be primarily focused on the Atomiswave port in comparison with the Dreamcast version. Well, grab your dolphin, get your gun, and... oh, hold on. Every time I do this, the years just melt away. I mean, the default year is 1998. I was in high school in 1998. It's 2022. I'm so old.
If you let the game's demo play, you get a brief introduction to the story. Diving in, you play as one of two characters, a guy named Iroh or a lady named Anne. Both have their own separate motivations within the story. Iroh is a trigger-happy weapons expert, and Anne just wants to save her people. Taking place in the distant future, the game takes an obvious page out of the movie Waterworld's playbook, casting most of the planet either underwater or living on the sea. Enter a military outlet hellbent on taking over everything, and they get the attention of our heroes by kidnapping the current kingdom's royal princess. Now our heroes must succeed to reach the end of the game, save her, and destroy the baddies, all in a day's work. One thing I found odd is that you technically can't choose who you want to play as in this game. Your default player 1 is Iroh. However, after I finished capturing footage, I figured out a way to play as Anne. If you press start on player 1's controller, then switch the controller to the second port at the title screen, it'll allow you to play as Anne.
Oh, so it's like arcade style. Alright, okay.
The opening scene showcases the princess being kidnapped, and our heroes are off on their mission to rescue her and stop the evil empire from taking over. Immediately, we're thrust into run-and-gun goodness. Using the directional pad or analog stick, you'll find that moving your heroes about is very smooth. The characters have a more gliding motion as they shimmy across the screen instead of the traditional run-and-gun movement. You can aim up, forward, and can duck and shoot. Certain guns also allow aiming diagonally as well, though it's a bit more difficult as it's a sweeping motion. I've always disliked this method of attacking diagonally, preferring Contra's method, but maybe that's just me. There's also a button to perform what the manual calls a surprise attack. It's a more powerful swirl jump that hits the enemies harder, but it's based on powering up the bar at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. I believe this bar refills based on time according to the manual, or if you die, it automatically refills, similar to the grenades in Metal Slug. The longer it builds, the more powerful the attack. It's also worth noting that depending on which type of stage you're playing, your specialty move is different and may involve a blue or pink dolphin buddy depending on who you play with in the game. During the walking stages, it's almost a swirling jump that doesn't feel that powerful. But when you're riding the dolphin, your cetacean buddy will shoot out fast and furious, crushing anything in their way. I found the third style of special attacks more difficult to control regarding the underwater stages. It sometimes feels like it's supposed to be homing based, but it never hits when I really need it to hit directly in my path. Levels are split up between 3 different types. Walking stages where you control the motion, on-rails levels where you're riding a dolphin, or the ones where your dolphin is right next to you and you're swimming together. The on-rail levels have a varying degree of speeds. Sometimes you'll be moving slowly through a heavily armed location, other times through an almost minecart-style thrill ride. Each one is different enough to keep the transition from one stage to another engaging. I was definitely not bored when playing Dolphin Blue, but at the same time, because it's unlimited continues, I never really felt that much in the way of a challenge. Because the game has no auto-fire option, you'll spend most of your time pressing the attack button constantly. This gets especially tiring in the later stages, as certain bosses are bullet sponges. Most of your standard enemies are all one-hit kills, and much like Metal Slug, you have a melee attack option if baddies get too close to you. I found the weapon selection in this game to be a lot less engaging than Metal Slug, if I'm being honest. The standard gun is okay, but my weapon of choice was always the Gatling gun. Or is it the machine gun? I don't know. The Melt gun fires a limited range heat shot, which kind of feels lacking. The missile launcher fires a stream of homing missiles. Hyper gun fires a thicker stream of bullets similar to a machine gun or Gatling gun. This is my issue. Most of the guns don't stand out enough, especially compared to Big Brother Metal Slug. It's not bad, just disappointing. I will say this game is visually quite stunning to watch no matter which version you play. The character sprites to me look a little muddier on the Dreamcast, with the Atomiswave version being preferred for the smoothness alone. The worst part about the Dreamcast port is that it suffers from really bad frame rate issues when things get intense. Though when the game first got ported it was notorious for crashing, but this has been fixed in the current version available. Hopefully they can do something about the frame rate as well. Loading also is quite long on the Dreamcast, with levels taking so long to load that I started to get concerned my system froze. So if you want your Dolphin Blue experience to be buttery smooth, go with the Atomiswave version. If you'd rather have it on console and be more accessible without having to deal with Atomiswave emulation or tracking down a physical version of the game, the Dreamcast version is your next best option. Getting back to the actual art design, the look of Dolphin Blue is like Metal Slug on steroids. The characters are larger, more detailed, and the levels match the proportion of the humans in it. The best way to describe it is water-themed militant steampunk. I love just taking in the game's impressive amount of on-screen enemies as they fall to their deaths, all animated in 2D glory. This game also pushes the 3D elements of certain ships you'll face off against with lots of rotation present. Some of these enemies are huge and take up the whole screen, like this ship in one of the underwater stages which requires you to attack each section to make a drop down and defeat. Unfortunately, it's parts like this where the Dreamcast version really suffers from the dip in frame rate to almost single digits at points. But hey, at least it looks cool. Dolphin Blue sounds about as epic as you'd expect. The sound effects are designed to illuminate the arcade experience, with loud blasts and booms that are sure to get eyes on you as you play. The soundtrack itself kind of all rolls into each track, with a few I enjoyed. Composed by Akihiro Uchida, Maiko Euchi, and Toshihiro Yonetani, Dolphin Blue reigns majestic with hard pianos, booming timpanis, plunky bass lines, and flashy horns. Just listen to a couple standout tracks and hear for yourself. It fits the mood of the game perfectly. Dolphin Blue is an exciting flood of fins right to the finale. I love the concept and execution of this as a run and gun. I've heard from many people that this game is hard, and while I agree that it takes many continues to finish, if you're playing on Dreamcast or Atomiswave, there's unlimited continues. I suppose if you're considering clearing it in one credit, that would be an immense challenge, but Dolphin Blue remains accessible to most gamers. Supposedly in the settings of the Atomiswave version, there's a way to increase players from the default 3 to the max of 9 per credit, which would also make the game easier per play. With bright colors, flashy sound effects, and epic music, it hits all the right waves to bring this splash of a title out of arcades and into our homes. The tragedy is that the frame rate suffers immensely in this fan-converted port. Play the Atomiswave MAME version emulated over the Dreamcast version, unless you have no other choice. Here's hoping this can be fixed in a future fan build so we can all get the home console port this game deserves.
Well, that's about it. You know, it's a shame that the Dreamcast port is lacking in some ways, but I guess the positive thing is that these games are getting ported elsewhere outside of being just relics of the arcade. And yeah, that's gonna start happening more often than not. But there's still some holdouts. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Cadillacs and dinosaurs. Anyways, that's it. I got no skits, I got nothing. I'm just gonna fade out. Yep, definitely no skits. Nope. Nada. Sorry. Well, except for this one. Ah!
thanks to all Patreon supporters, but especially the Morningstar Whip tier and up. They are Sam Schaefer, The Eighth Sign, Scott McElhone, Venthros, Great White North Presents, Nintendo, Bryce, Derek Demitter, and Trevin Adams. Your continued support helps fund reviews like this one, which would simply not be possible without the donations from Patreon members. I appreciate each and every one of you for continuing to help me make the content that you want to see. Classic goofy YouTube video game reviews. If anyone is interested, just $1 down gets you access to exclusive streams on Discord, stretch goals like Taco Bell food reviews each month, along with director's cut commentary for episodes, a free sticker, regular updates on upcoming reviews, and more. Check it out at patreon.com/dongle. I hate to sound like a typical YouTuber, but if Patreon's not your thing, but you still want to help get the word out, share this video on social media. Exposure really helps, so if you like these videos and think your friends will too, sharing it with them means a lot. Want more Dude You Haven't Played This Game? Check out the videos enclosed below. You can click on the left-hand side or the right-hand side for a totally different but totally awesome review. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Dude You Haven't Played This Game.